Hello there and welcome. My name is Jimmy Wikman, and in this video we're going to talk about the difference between projects and initiatives. The reason I want to make this video is because I see a lot of people intermixing these two and treating them as if they are the same, and they don't understand the difference between how these two types of work or two types of organization are actually handled when it comes to the financial part. So in the terms of initiatives, those are born within an operational budget and the OpEX part of your company. And when it comes to projects, they are part of the investment budget. So your OpEX part of your organization. And because they are from different types of budgets, they also have different needs. So they have different requirements and that how they actually need to be handled. So before we move on, let's just talk about these two budget types so you understand what they are. So within an organization, you always have the operational budget. So that is, if you think about your own home, for example, you always have your bills that you pay every month. So you have your rent, and you have your subscriptions, you have your electricity, gas bills, or whatever you have. The monthly payments, you have your bank payments and stuff like that. They are always the same, basically. They might fluctuate a little bit, but they are the same. And these are the same thing for organizations. So every salary that you pay, every rent that you pay, all the inventories that you rent, all the license costs and so on, they are referred to as operational cost. These are things that you must have to continue to exist. Investment budget, on the other hand, that is a bunch of money or a sum of money that you actually put into improving things. So you can think about these as budgets that you have for example, renovate your kitchen or if you want to build a garage or whatever you have it. These are external costs on top of your operational budgets. So, that difference is very important because operational cost is usually allocated once a year. So you basically have a 1 year annual operational budget. That is because all organizations work on an annual cadence. That is because we have to pay our taxes and when we need to file our records and talk to our stakeholders and stuff like that on an annual cadence. So that's why you have an operational cost or an operational budget on an annual cadence. And you also typically assign investment budgets annually as well. There are some exceptions when you have very large investment that you need to make. So for example, if you're building a new factory, for example, that's not going to be built in 1 year. Then you have a multi-year investment, and then you have an investment plan rather than having an investment budget. But normally you have a small pot of money and that you can actually put into larger or more important investment that you want to make in top of your day-to-day operations. So now you know the difference between the two types of budgets. So how does initiative and projects tie into these? Well, initiatives is basically any type of focused work that you do within your operational budget. So that means that if you are a product team, for example, your product owner have a budget. And within that budget, you can do pretty much whatever you want. So if you want to focus a part of your work on a specific area, some of you refer to that as a project, but it's not a project, it's an initiative. It's a focus area or it's a priority. It is not a project. And the reason why that distinction is important, because when you come to projects, there are very big, large, many processes and methodologies for projects. And they are all built around the premise that it is an investment project. And in investment projects, what you always must have is you need to have someone who actually ordered the project. You need to have a steering group that help you make sure that the project is actually being done, and you need to have project plans and so on. So there's a lot of extra things that you must have within a project. Projects are also hardly defined, or they are very strictly defined in what is called the iron triangle. So you have a scope, and you have a cost or monetary, and you have time. So these are very strictly defined. And the reason why they are strictly defined is because when you do an investment project, usually, at least, there are some exceptions, What you do is you go then to an investment board and you ask for extra money and say, we have something extra cool that we want to build, but we cannot really fund this within our operational budget, or we need to have this over multiple budget areas. And so we would like to actually have this one shared with everyone. But then it's very difficult to handle the payment. So we would like to have this as an investment project. And when you go to an investment board, they need to understand exactly what is it that you are thinking that you will do, and also what kind of value will you actually get from it. And the reason for that one is that most organizations work in some kind of portfolio structure. So they need to measure your your project. See, even I do the slip-ups from time to time. But they need to be able to measure your project against other projects so they can prioritize which one is most important for our company. And that's the same thing as you do as a product owner, for example. So if you're a product owner or a service owner, then you will do the same thing. You will just do it on a much smaller scale, and you do it only for your product. While an investment board, they do it for larger areas. So you usually have multiple investment boards. You can have one from IT, for example, and you can have one that is global for the whole organization. And you can have one for finance and so on. So there are many boards that you can go to, but they need to look at the larger picture and to see then how does this one fit in with the rest of our organization. So if you are then, like I have very recently talked about creating a project, then you would assume, in my case then, that means that there is someone who have ordered this one. There is a steering group that will actually make sure that this one happens. There's a stakeholder, like a group of stakeholders that are involved in this one. And this one is driven by someone to actually make sure that this one happens. And you need to have a budget for it. You need to have a plan for it, so you can actually see what are we going to deliver and why. And if you don't have all of these things, then you are doing an initiative. And this can become very difficult or very problematic, like in my case recently, when I thought that I was part of a project, but it actually was an initiative. Because what happens when you are an initiative, you're on your own. You don't have a steering group. You have no stakeholders unless you reach out to them yourself. And there's normally no one who actually ordered it other than perhaps the product owner or the area owner of whatever part of the organization you work. And that can mean that if you have, like I had, a global project that was actually spanning over everyone within the organization, and it was driven as an initiative, then it's almost impossible to actually make that happen because I do not have the support that I need to actually make that happen. And the simple mistake then of talking with the same word, but people interpret it differently, that is what caused this problem. Because the people that I worked for, they thought that I meant an initiative because I was the one running my part, and they thought that then you will take care of everything. But that doesn't really work because you need to have more people involved. You cannot have one person running a full-blown project that includes thousands of people. That is not a good way to do it. So anytime that you are now using the term project, think to yourself, do we actually have a separate budget for this one? Do we have a steering group? Do we have a project plan for it with an execution plan? Is the scope fixed? Is the budget fixed? Is the time fixed? If it is not, then you're probably an initiative, and then you're probably working within an operational model. And then you have different people that you actually refer to. You can still have a project plan if you have it as an operational project. You can still have a steering group. They will just not be on the same level as you have in a project. But the main importance here is to understand that there is a very big difference in expectations. If you are within an initiative, then you are only within your own little bubble. So within that little bubble, you can do whatever you want. But if you have a project, then you are outside of your bubble and you're actually racing above it, and you are asking for extra money from a part of the organization that has to prioritize it against all other requests for extra money. So I hope that one was informative for you, and that you will stop now using the term project for everything. And if you feel that we cannot handle using the term initiative because we don't have that in our vocabulary and everyone says project, and please at least add an affix to it, a prefix to it. So you actually say this is now a operational project, or it is an investment project. So that way at least people understand what kind of expectations do you have on me for this one, and what kind of hoops do I need to jump through to actually execute this one. And also what kind of flexibility do I have? Because within an operational budget you have basically endless opportunities to change the project or the initiative as you see fit, because it's just your team that is involved in it. Maybe you have someone you collaborate with, but it's usually very limited. But in a project you have a much higher barrier to actually climb over if you want to make a change, because you have made a commitment based on the presentation of what is it that we actually will deliver and what will be the value. So if you change that, then you actually have to do a change process, a financial change process towards the project board, to actually, the finance board, the investment board, to actually get that approved. Because if you make a change and that lowers the value, then they might say that now we don't want to invest in this anymore because we have other things that have higher priority. Or maybe they say that now it will cost more. Now we need to take a new decision because now we are not sure if we can actually pay it. So there's a lot of things that are different when you're talking about how to execute a body of work. So use the right term. Use initiative or operational project, or use project, or you use an investment project, just so people understand the difference and also the processes involved in that. Now I rambled on far enough, so I hope this was something that you thought was interesting and useful. I will continue to having some of these that I refer to as the fundamentals, just to reset people or reset the language a little bit so we actually know what we are talking about. So that's that. I guess the only thing that is left now for me to say is the same as always. I hope that you have a great day and an awesome week.